Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's
I
time.
I believe this is due to what is upcoming here. Why don't you stand up for us, Siraj? Why don't you
Oof.
give us a nice view of that beautiful man right there? What's on the back? Oh, there we go, man. Gonna have to do our best to, put our biases aside on this one because we got the main event here. The main event, which was supposed to happen a while ago, headlined another card, but here we are now, a couple months later. We got Curtis
Same
Blaydes
things.
against the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. One of the most entertaining guys ever to touch the sport, for sure. So,
And like
on one
inside and
end,
outside, like the guy is just pulling
everything,
off the most
everything.
amazing fights you've ever seen. Like that, if I wasn't already such a believer, like how are you pulling more people in with that Volkov win? Like it's just so funny to me. He's
It's
such a
funny. I
monster.
went and rewatched that one actually in prep of
Wow.
this, and man, dude, like some of the rabbits this guy pulls out of the hat is just so crazy,
I know.
man.
I
And
know.
he backs up all the shit talk. He's hilarious. That's our boy right there. So let's touch on just a few kind of arbitrary things here. Blades 14-2 record. Having won 4 in a row. KO of JDS. Win against Volkov. Recently one of his 2 losses came to Ngannou. True beast in this division. Should be getting a title shot soon enough. On the flip side, we got our boy Derrick Lewis here. Beast, 24-7 record. He's fought them all. We saw him live. Just take on Ngannou and somehow pull out a win there. Prior to that, he has losses against Cormier, JDS. I believe he's beaten Ngannou, Volkov, and Tybura. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
he's
I don't
fought
know.
everybody in the division. He's basically fought everybody, and it just comes down to like what Derrick Lewis we saw in there, and also what other fighter we saw in there. Like let's be honest, Francis Ngannou had every chance in the world to also maybe chalk
Yeah.
that one up, but Stipe shocked this man mentally and was like, "Oh shit, I am human. I do need to figure some things out." And so you're seeing that happen to him against Derrick Lewis. Thank God, but. I don't want to see Derrick Lewis injured at all, but go back into
Never.
like the current fight. Like he's actually already scheduled to fight Stipe, by the way, for the title for the second time in March. I think it's March 27th. So he's going to be
Okay.
already scheduled for that. But let's look at Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes actually has the chance to be the next in line and have the opportunity to fight the guy who beat him twice for the title. Do you know what I mean? That's a story in itself, but
That's
is it a
nuts.
sellable fight, right? That's the big thing you have to tell yourself, because do you believe, and this is a question, who do you think the UFC wants to win this fight?
Whew, that's an interesting question, man. I think it depends on how the fight plays out, but if it is going to not be a technical go the distance, somewhat boring of a fight, I believe they want Blades to win.
So here's my thing. Personally speaking, Derrick Lewis is putting all the work he can into being an athlete and give it one last go. 100% biasly speaking, I hope he wins this fight. Blades is only 29. He hasn't even turned 30 yet. His time is coming. He'll have plenty of opportunity. He still needs to work on that, footwork and those hands and everything that comes with fighting Francis Ngannou. How did Stipe beat him? Better boxing, better footwork, roll with some punches. Like it was almost like a humbling experience for all of us to see a guy like that, who people thought was just such a monster, basically getting compared to the Predator against Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I mean,
He is a
goes.
monster, though. He is a monster.
100%. And you know what? He's gotten better now. The striking actually looks more technical, and the power is still there. That's the scary part for Stipe. Stipe obviously did not want to take this match, but it was the one he had to take. And, I thought he handedly beat him. And that was just one of the best heavyweight fights you'll ever watch because of everything leading up to it. And, you had the Cormier and Miocic saga that we were kind of personally a part of, which was phenomenal. Video of me crying at the top, like it just like peak, whatever you want to call it, whatever at the UFC event. But like we said, off to one and Oak we went. I really think that this is a tough fight, right? Like it's just Blades is a great wrestler. I think that the Ngannou losses taught him to avoid things on the feet. So, I mean, I'm curious if you, from a from what you've seen from both guys, I mean, it's tough to side with Lewis, right? From a betting perspective. What do you think?
It obviously, from a technical perspective on who should win the fight, all odds point to Blaydes. But I feel like that's Derrick Lewis going into any of his fights. And then somehow he pulls out these miraculous knocks.
And that's where I think you answered your own question, right? I think the UFC definitely wants to you answered I answered my question, but I think that's you answered my question a bit better. Because you know what? I think the UFC wants that exciting fight. And I think that if you had to watch Ngannou beat Stipe in maybe a knockout, who knows, whatever way he tries to, if he beats him, and he then has to face this man for the third time. Think about the UFC from a promotional perspective. I have to now, promote the top fighter probably from a pull perspective against a man that he already beat twice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a very tough call. I think it's almost better to assume, from a UFC perspective, if Stipe goes and wins that, and Blaydes wins this fight, watching a Blaydes-Stipe fight will be so wonderfully MMA technical that people will love it. And now, whoever Stipe might even retire after he fights Ngannou. I can see that happening for sure. But that still means that a Blaydes title defense against Ngannou for the third fight is a little bit more promotable than I would say the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is going to be a great one. I do believe Lewis has a puncher's chance, as he always does. Do you remember the line from the original bout?
Actually, no, I do not. That one was a very long time ago. Wow.
It was. I was actually at your house when we were looking at it the first time. So that should tell you how long ago that was. So, let's see what your prediction is for this one. It's actually not that far off from the original one. So
so I mean, I have to still give it to Blaydes because he's going to have a technical edge. I mean, I don't think Derrick Lewis goes into many of his fights at this point of his career when he's fighting the best in the UFC as the favorite. Everybody's looking at this guy who looks slow and all this, but the guy's head is in there, and he's a dog, man. He's an absolute fighter. Like he's that's what he is. He generates power at any point in the fight, and he's becoming a better athlete. So that's what scares me the most. But Curtis Blaydes doesn't deserve to be a -300 favorite. He has the athletic chance, and we're not talking about a Francis Ngannou type power because there's more technique a little bit, I'd say, in the boxing there. Like we're talking about a man who's just almost street level boxing and can actually throw some pretty good combos and lands accurately. That's the thing I love about Lewis. So at the end of the day, you're banking on a lot more to happen for Lewis to win. So we're going to go with Curtis Blaydes at a -250 because I can play both sides. He deserves the over -200, but he is not a -300 favorite.
So last time when this fight was scheduled, the line opened at a -375. I very clearly remember this at your house and just being shocked. So it did open at a -375. By fight time, it had closed at -345. Okay. Now, obviously, this event was canceled then. If I look now, it's dropped even further to a -334. So it's still heavy. So it's still a very heavy favorite. But we see the trend, right? 375 opening. That last fight, it closed at 345. This time, they didn't even open that high. It started at -334.
You ain't got to ask me where my, if I have a pot for the betting, where my money's going for this fight. If we have a pot per fight, where I'm sprinkling. I would honestly say that, think about the fact that this being a 5-round fight. If Lewis is able to survive, which he survives very well, bro, be careful. My boy might just pull off another beauty and set himself up for I almost pulled the pies. I'm going to say swearing is a pies thing because he's going to hate that. But I'm going to...
No, do not make swearing a pies thing.
See, there you go. So I knew that was going to be a thing. He's already done it so many times, my word. Oof. But
this guy.
I just, it's just hard for me not to look at that. I love Derrick Lewis in 5-round fights. What do you want me to say? You might see fat guy. I see dude who just continues to just survive. He literally survived with even Olenek, man. He was on the ground for a little bit of that fight. He knows what he's doing, man. And I think people underestimate how smart he
And
is.
I think he likes being underestimated. Of
course.
I think it's part of his
this man. Yeah, he loves it, man. He loves being a dog. But this man is starting to truly show signs of improving as an athlete. How much further as a UFC fighter he's going to take it, we'll see, because I know that he's doing what he has to kind of invest all around. I would love to see, if you watch his interviews, I mean, he's a pretty talkative guy too. He's a pretty smart guy. So I would love to see this man kind of do, if him and Cormier were doing like heavyweight stuff.
Oh, like, don't even get me excited there. I knew you were going to say it. What a dynamic duo that would be.
I think if these two had a show and they maybe did like a little spin-off with Ariel Helwani a little bit here and there, could you imagine those three just having a little, shoot the shit type of show? I think it would be really, really fun. So that's where I kind of see Lewis's career overall. So if it doesn't happen, in this fight, it's going to be interesting to see where his career goes, because at the end of the day, you fought almost everybody. You don't deserve to be a gatekeeper at this point, because I think you're enough of a draw where they would still want to give you a pretty good name, even if it's like one of the bigger name prospects. I still don't think that's a gatekeeper. That's a guy trying to get a title shot, which is like, I think gatekeeper really is for like if you're a guy like just outside the rankings, or a guy who's ranked like 14, 15, trying to prevent guys from getting in. Like, I think that's where I kind of classify them personally, because at some point, man, especially in heavyweights, when these guys are so old and they're still fighting, like, how many times like are you going to be able to fight the same people, right? And you're going to see it now. Like, we already have, Cormier Miocic, like that was a big one. You even had Jones and Cormier, right? Like when you're that good and you're at those levels, like, unfortunately, there's not a lot of guys that are that big and that athletic.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to end up fighting the same guys over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, safe to say, we are pumped for this one. UFC Vegas 19 takes place next Saturday, headlined by our boy, the Black Beast, taking on Curtis Blaydes. We got a bunch of beauty heavyweight fights on that card, so I'm super pumped for it. That wraps it up today. If you haven't already done so, smash that like button, hit that bell button, give us that subscribe, the follow. All our Instagram, Twitter is all there. Any questions, comments you guys have, just send them our way. Anything else, Siraj?
I mean, just be ready. Like, we keep pumping this fight up, but be ready for a 5-round wrestling match where Curtis Blaydes isn't able to finish this man, and Derrick Lewis isn't able to get off his back after 3 rounds, and you're just watching a guy get taken down for 5 rounds. So just be ready for that as well.
Yeah. Nice little disclaimer there, my man. Always a pleasure, dude. Take care.
You too, my guy. Take care.